Shalom. Shalom and welcome. Welcome to White Robes family. My name is Symmanayah, and these are the words I'm compelled to present before an awakening nation. This is part of the Judgment Warnings and Instructions series. My brothers and sisters, I want to bring to your attention an experience that I had that compelled me to label this series, this particular segment rather, in this series, The Great Divide. The Great Divide. My brothers and sisters, and before I get into it, let me read the following. Warning and disclaimer. The information contained in White Robes family represent instructions and warnings to individuals who believe they are drawn by the Almighty Creator Yahuah to Yahusha Mashyach. Let me emphasize, if you do not believe the Almighty Father Yahuah has drawn you to Yahusha Mashyach, these words are not to you. The content presented centers around end-time realities. Please be advised this site is not intended for children under 16 years of age due to its content. This clause is put in here, my brothers and sisters, to be compliant with the video platforms that I am using. Please be advised this, my brothers and sisters, to these words. By continuing forward, you agree to hold Symmanayah harmless of any influence and or actions that arise as a result of watching, listening, and reviewing the content presented. The views expressed do not reflect the owners, management, and or shareholders of this media platform. Please note that I am not affiliated with anyone or organization with similar names. With that said, my brothers and sisters, the Great Divide. I want to share with you what I believe I am charged to say. Hear these words and listen carefully, O Yashar'al. For I believe that I indeed had a prophetic encounter regarding what to expect. I believe the Almighty Father said to me, what person of authority will accept something that has been assembled incorrectly? What person in authority and that have the skill sets will accept something that is disjointed? I believe the Father said to me, speak to the children of Yashar'al to rebuke my discipline, to attempt to chastise me and reject what I have promised to you would be a grave mistake, my children. My children, hear these words, saith the Almighty Father. There are many individuals that are in the wrong position, that are in the wrong assembly. They have been assembled incorrectly. And I, saith the Almighty Father, through all that I have promised you, O Yashar'al, through my discipline, I will disassemble, I will separate. And the plagues and the famine, the pestilence and disease, in my discipline, saith the Almighty Father, I will separate, I will refine, and I will assemble. Saith the Almighty Father, I will assemble you, my children, in the correct places, in the correct positions. Some I will take to rest, and some will work diligently. Some will execute judgment, saith the Almighty Father. The Great Divide. You will witness with each aggregate, with each compounding rejection of my discipline, things will get more intense. Things will become more severe because you did not turn to me, saith the Almighty Father. I will disassemble what has been incorrectly gathered, and I will gather my children, saith the Almighty Father. I will speak to you directly, and I will speak to you through my chosen ones. Seek to hear my words, saith the Almighty Father. The great divide has begun, and I will prove that with each turning away of my discipline, The judgment will become more intense. The weights will become more severe to bring about the discipline that will prove to contribute to the 144,000 in great multitude of which I have chosen for my esteem to fulfill what I have promised. Hear these words, O Yashar'al. As I had this encounter, my brothers and sisters, I prayed, I looked. Many scriptures flooded my mind. My spirit was stirred tremendously, my brothers and sisters. The word of Yahuah, he who is a consuming fire, he who is the beginning and the end, saw fit to visit me, saw fit to use me to present these words. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, the great divide. Consider what is going on. Here's a coronavirus update for you, O Yashar'al. The coronavirus, COVID-19, it is indeed a contributor to isolation and fragmentation. It contributes to disassembling, breaking apart, dividing things among Yashar'al that are in the wrong place, things that should not even be there. Consider currently, my brothers and sisters, as of the 4th month of the Gregorian year, the 22nd day, the year 2020, according to the Gregorian calendar, at 10:44 a.m., worldwide total infected, 2,667,551. Again, 2,667,551. The number of deaths reported, 186,252. In the United States, these numbers are included in the total that I gave. The number reported as of 4/22/2020, 10:44 a.m. was 850,111 infected. The number of deaths, 47,732. I say to you, O Yashar'al, there are no known cures for this virus. There are no known cures for this virus, save the Almighty Father. The numbers are adding up, and it will prove to bring extreme humbling times. The time is now to discern true chosen leaders and begin to prepare to gather together. Remember Isaiah 11:12, and he shall raise a banner for the nations and gather the outcasts of Yashar'al and assemble the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. I say to you, O Yashar'al, are you satisfied with your current leadership? Are you satisfied with the instructions that you are getting, that you are receiving from your current leaders, your current mores, pastors, teachers, bishops? Or are you holding on to compromising situations? Are you holding on? Have you positioned yourself in the wrong place? Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. As I pondered on the word that came to me, my spirit was stirred, and the Most High continues to compel me to ask these questions. He brought my attention once again to how we were scattered. Because of disobedience, my brothers and sisters, we were scattered. And I don't have to regurgitate. I don't have to retrace all that have happened to Yashar'al since the days of old. But I say in the great scattering, there was a great divide. Let me read this, O Yashar'al. Deuteronomy 4:23-30 reads, guard yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of Yahuah, your Almighty One, which he made with you, and shall make for yourselves a carved image in any form as Yahuah, your Elohim, have commanded you. Lest you forget the covenant. Don't make carved images. For Yahuah, your Almighty One, is consuming fire, a jealous all. Let me read that again. Guard yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of the Almighty One, which he made with you. Lest you find yourselves a carved image in any form, as Yahuah, your Elohim, has commanded you. See, that seemed to read incorrectly, my brothers and sisters, because it said, your Elohim, which made with you, and shall make for yourselves it seems as though it's saying, guard yourselves, lest you find yourselves making carved images. As the Almighty One has commanded you to guard yourself. For Yahuah, your Almighty One, is a consuming fire, a jealous awe. When you bring forth children and grandchildren, and shall grow old in the land, and shall do corruptly, and make a carved image in the form of whatever, shall do what is evil in the eyes of Yahuah, your Almighty One, to provoke him, I shall call the heavens and earth to witness against you on that day, that you soon completely perish from the land which you pass over the Jordan to possess. You do not prolong your days in it, but are completely destroyed. And Yahuah, this is what I want to get to mainly, my brothers and sisters. Yahuah shall scatter you among the peoples, and you should be left few in number among the nations where Yahuah drives you. And there you shall serve mighty ones, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see nor hear nor eat nor smell. But from there you shall seek Yahuah, your Almighty One, and shall find, when you search for him with all your heart and with all your being, in your distress, when all these words shall come upon you, in the latter days, then you shall return to Yahuah, your Almighty One, and shall obey his voice. My brothers and sisters, I want to bring to your attention this passage that I just read. Let me go back. Deuteronomy 4:24 through 30. And if you search the scriptures, you will see, my brothers and sisters, when Yashar'al was disobedient, we were scattered, divided, because we assembled incorrectly. We were in the wrong position, in the wrong place, with the wrong people, with the wrong behaviors. And as a result of that, the fruit of such decisions brought about a scattering, a great divide. Were there still someone professing the words of the Almighty Father? Indeed, for his word has been preserved throughout the ages. Prepare to witness, my brothers and sisters, as I read that in the latter days we shall return. These are the latter days, O Yashar'al. Hear these words from Matthew 19:29 and 30. I've read them before and will share them again. Prepare. There will be things left behind, my brothers and sisters. Prepare to leave behind. During this great separation that is happening as a result of being shut in from this COVID-19, for this disease and other diseases that are contagious, that are not getting the press. During such time as this, my brothers and sisters, the discipline of the Almighty Father wants us, desires us, calls unto us to study, to pray, to listen, to grow in discernment, to identify his drawing in those whom he will draw us to. Hear these words. Hear the life in these words. Matthew 19:29 and 30. And everyone who has left houses, or brothers, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold, and shall inherit everlasting life. But many who are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, rise up. There will be things and people and individuals left behind. Some will be considered among our loved ones. But remember, it is the Almighty Father Yahuah who assembles, who put together his people as he see fit. Are there many members, as it is written in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 12th chapter, Ephesians 4th chapter, Romans 12th chapter? Are there many members? Yes, there are, my brothers and sisters, but one body. Make no mistake, it is the Spirit of the Almighty Father in Yahusha's name that will assemble us together as he see fit. He will guide us to the appropriate and selected assemblies, and he will pull us away and apart. We will be divided from assemblies that we have no business being in. In some cases, my brothers and sisters, it may be just a position, a realignment is coming. And during these extremely humbling times that will get worse, we will find that we will rise up in the strength and power of the Spirit of the Almighty Father Yahuah. Send in Yahusha's name. Out of our obedience, we will lift up Yahusha and watch him draw all men to himself, as it is written. Amos chapter 9, 8, and 9. I've shared it before, my brothers and sisters. It speaks on the Almighty Father sifting the house of Yashar'al among the nations. In sifting comes a divide, O Yashar'al. Do you think that he will receive us disjointed, put together incorrectly, assembled in the wrong places at the wrong time? No, O Yashar'al, not in the least. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, I cannot stress enough that the times ahead, food shortages, diseases, hardships, to the discern and unlearning, confusion. But the Almighty Father say, I am not the author of confusion. Your confusion is a result of the fruit of a decision, of a choice that you've made. Seek me, pray without ceasing, says the Almighty Father, and you will find answers. Things will become clear. Fear me, says the Almighty Father, and I will give you the knowledge that you need to endure until the very end. Now consider the look, O Yashar'al. Consider the look of the great divide that is unfolding. During this separation, it is a disassembling of what has been incorrectly gathered. And we will witness an assembling, a rise of the set apart ones, guarded by the power and might of the Almighty Father. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, do not worry about tomorrow, but discern and prepare the words that are presented by the Almighty Father. Prepare and walk in obedience. This is the call, my brothers and sisters. The warning is the fruit of rebellion will bring pain and regret. For those who are chosen, we will find ourselves becoming weaker and weaker and weaker until we yield and obey what we have been chosen and tasked to do. You see, end time prophecies will be fulfilled. It's not a matter of, well, if you listen to me, well, if you pay attention to me, the Almighty Father has so ordered, and his word is going forth. Look around and we will see the evidence of his discipline, his refinement. We will see the promises of vengeance and wrath unfold before our very eyes in the midst of this great divide. Yashar'al, my brothers, my sisters, my family. Things or people. There will be separations, Yashar'al. People we live with will no longer be in our midst, or we will no longer be in their midst. Our lifestyles are changing, to say the least. That is nothing new. Look around, O Yashar'al. Job and career changes, in some cases, will come to an end as you discover the task, the job, the career that the Almighty Father has for you, for me, for us, in the gathering of his set-apart children. Social distancing is something that's causing separation according to man's word. But the Almighty Father say, it is I alone who puts you in the state to pray, to communicate with me, saith the Almighty Father. We will witness change in rules and regulations, but the coming days will prove that the voice of the Almighty Father will guide us and gather us from the four corners of the earth. We will know it, for evidence will come, O Yashar'al. Famine, pestilence, and disease brings about separation. It is part of the discipline of the Almighty Father. To the children of Yahuah, these are the fruits of disobeying. Famine, pestilence, disease. These bring the flesh into weakness so that our inward man can become strong, so that we can cry out and recognize the presence of the Almighty Father within us, within these earthen vessels, and we will rise up with strength to move about as we are directed. My brothers and sisters, Separations, a time for preparations and active movement, will come. For some, it has begun. Identifying leadership and living orders. Make no mistake, O Yashar'al, the power and might of the Almighty Father will indeed pierce through the egos, the pride. He will select and prove whom he has selected to bring about the gathering, the restoration of an awakening nation. Now consider your position, my brothers and sisters, in coming demands. And you might say, well, that's nothing new. But have you identified your position? Have you identified what you are tasked to do? Have your leader, your more, your pastor, your prophet, have they confirmed or reaffirmed the position that you know that the Almighty Father has fashioned you to do? Are they kicking against what the Almighty Father is directing you? Are you satisfied with your leadership? Are you the one to correct your leadership? Yes, it is written, rebuke, not an elder. It is referencing an elder who has demonstrated obedience and who demonstrates obedience to the Almighty Father. And the only way we know that that is the case, my brothers and sisters, is in vetting, examining. For we are to examine ourselves and one another. No one is exempt, O Yashar'al. It's as though someone assembled a car with parts from a skateboard, a bicycle, a bus, an airplane. It is someone took parts and just slammed something together to move. This is the state of Yashar'al, and that will change. For in this here separation, my brothers and sisters, the correct part, the correct position, the correct placement, the correct fuel, the correct guidance, those who will be used to steer the coming of Yashar'al during these end times will rise with power and with evidence. What's your position, my brothers and sisters? Prepared to identify and discern coming demands. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters. Out of the great divide comes a great gathering. Though we are separated now, be mindful, for the time will soon come when Isaiah 11:12 will be fulfilled, being gathered from the four corners of the earth. I also have here Isaiah 43:5-7. It says, do not fear, for I am with you. This is Isaiah 43:5-7. Do not fear, for I am with you. I shall bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west. I shall say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not keep them back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth. All those who have called by my name, whom I have created, formed, even made for my esteem. I say to you, O Yashar'al, what we are witnessing. Soon the world will acknowledge the true Abrahym, the true Hebrews. The world will acknowledge us, and they will acknowledge the Gentiles who have been grafted into the body with us, who are made one with us by Yahusha Mashyach. The world will acknowledge, and the world will release the children of the Almighty Father. There will be a great gathering. And I say to you, O Yashar'al, let us begin to discern where we're supposed to be so that we can be fitly joined in the position that we are tasked to do. Make no mistake, O Yashar'al. It's easy to say the words that I speak, but the actions will indeed follow. My brothers and sisters, believe, set-apart leaders and messengers will rise. I believe those who are commonly referred to as angels, messengers from the Almighty Father Yahuah, will soon become more visible and contribute towards the gathering from the four corners of the earth. Contribute towards passing the information that is necessary for us to be equipped with the instructions, the supplies, the resources, and the abilities to be gathered. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. And as these set-apart leaders and messengers become visible, they will lay waste the obstacles. They will remove and make foolish those who have chosen leadership for their own self-agenda, those who have placed themselves in self-appointed positions. The chosen leaders, chosen messengers of the Almighty Father, will bring to folly the obstacles of leaders who are in the wrong place. There are some leaders, my brothers and sisters, some mores, some teachers, some prophets. There are some that just have stumbled and fallen. There are some who would have fulfilled as much as they were supposed to do for such a time as this. In the merging of a gathering of a set-apart awakening nation, we will see a change of the guard for many. And there will be those who will go under the banner through the blood of the Lamb and rise up, corrected, strong, better than ever. O Yashar'al, we must and we will be able to acknowledge, discern, identify, and confirm their presence. Here, O Yashar'al, it is so important that we begin to consider remaining time. Consider directions and instructions. Are you asking questions, O Yashar'al? I make no light of those who have died. I make no light of those who have been rushed to the hospital. But understand this, O Yashar'al, there are many who have died. They are not in that position where they once were. There are many who are in the hospital who will not return home. There are those who will return home looking at life differently. Brothers and sisters that will shout, hallelujah, delivered. And yes, there are those who are not your brothers and sisters that will be delivered from this virus. Keep in mind that the Almighty Father reigns on the just and unjust. This means for good or bad. He demonstrates his power, his ways, his words. Remember, my brothers and sisters, man doesn't live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds out of the Almighty Father's mouth. As it is written in Deuteronomy 8:3. It is the words of Yahuah that we have breath, that we have life, that we have a heartbeat. We are entering into a stage, my brothers and sisters. Make no mistake. And when the scriptures speak of the days being shortened, as it is written in Matthew 24th chapter, the days being shortened will prove that there will be movement. And I have a series directed called The Closing Scroll. Soon there will be mass movement, such that it will be clear, crystal clear. It will become obvious as man will begin to move back to the region where life began. Pray and watch, O Yashar'al. End times are here. Ask questions. Do not find yourselves in the wrong place at the wrong time, as some will. Do not find yourself among those led astray, as some will. Rise up, O Yashar'al, and know the power of the blood of the Lamb. Know the presence of the Spirit of Yahuah, sent in Yahusha's name. Make no mistake, O Yashar'al, the great divide is real. My brothers and sisters, challenges and hurdles to consider as forced movement comes. Current and final gatherings. In other words, there will be merging from one group to the next, getting larger and larger till we begin to see 144,000 and great multitude. We must and we will, those who will fulfill what is written, begin to understand why identifying leadership is critical. Set apart leadership chosen by the Almighty Father. Why we must recognize and prepare to yield to the structure that the Almighty Father has designed. We will learn how managing resources and supplies is very important. Why we must have discipline and teach our children the discipline of what's to come. Becoming focused and obedient, my brothers and sisters, that time is now. If you don't know how, begin to ask questions. How do we focus? Focus, study, pray, seek Him with a diligent mind, heart, body, and soul. Seek the Almighty Father. and watch his response, his answer. It will come either in spirit or through another, as we find ourselves submitting ourselves one to another according to what is written. Movement have begun, my brothers and sisters, and it will ramp up. The rise of the 144,000 in great multitude will come in the shadows of the birth pains that we are experiencing today. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, listen carefully. The great divide, the characteristics of what we see that separates us, that divides us. In some cases, it is ordered by the Almighty Father so that we can be in correct position. There is a division that is wicked, that comes with confusion and rebellion. We must learn to discern the difference between right and wrong, what's wicked and what is set apart. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, perception of conditions can make a difference of how we respond to events that are unfolding before us. If we perceive them as discipline, we ask why. What am I to learn? What am I to do? We get under the blood of the Lamb and seek to discern what must our next move be, O Yashar'al. The great divide. If our perception is that it is a vengeance, what say you, my brothers and sisters? The children of Yahuah are not appointed to wrath. That is the perception of those in the outer court. That is the perception of those who are not set apart. Promised vengeance and wrath waits on no one. The only thing that is waiting right now, well, I won't say only thing, one prominent thing that is waiting right now is a reflection of 2 Thessalonians 2:7 that talks about the restrainer, my brothers and sisters, until he that restrain is removed. So the wicked one, the beast system, the anti-Messiah, the false prophet, the weight is for us as the restrainer to be removed. That removal is to be gathered from the four corners of the earth back to the promised land, centered around the set-apart mountain known currently as Jabal al-Laws, the true Mount Sinai. We will gather, O Yashar'al, those that have been chosen. Let us prepare. Let us begin to discuss what we are experiencing and what it is to learn. Let us begin to identify those whom we believe we are drawn to as the Almighty Father draws us together. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, it will get intense. There will be many more deaths, such that we could not have imagined. And all are not due to just COVID-19. Many deaths will come from diverse means. Storms will come, my brothers and sisters. Pray and watch and ask, what am I to learn? What am I to do? How do I respond? What steps do I take next? Draw close to those who you believe demonstrate wise counsel, set apart lives. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, heed these words. The food shortages are about to ramp up. Famine and disease is about to ramp up. Civil chaos, civil unrest is about to break out. Again, as these things break out, my instructions to you, O Yashar'al, is each day to pray and say, my Father, in the name of Yahusha, what will you have me to do? How do you want me to respond to the conditions before my very eyes? Seek to discern, my brothers and sisters. The answers will come. In some cases, you will have a remembrance of instructions you may have received yesterday, last week, months ago. In some cases, my brothers and sisters, if you're just trying to save your own neck, your own hide, if you're trying to save your own physical being, prepare to understand that the scriptures say, he who seeks to gain his life will lose it. Prepare for physical death. If you're seeking to lose your life for Yahusha's sake, saying, what would you have me, your servant, me who have sacrificed myself to you, O Yashar'al, me who seek to worship and obey you, what will you have me do, O Father, Almighty One, in the name of Yahuah? In Yahusha's name, what will you have me do? Identifying that it is Yahusha who makes it possible for us to experience life everlasting and the fullness of the life that we have. It's made possible by the Almighty Father manifesting his word before us. Yahusha symbolizes us recognizing his word before us, his word connecting with us. It is Yahusha whom the Almighty Father wants us to identify as his word to us. And so many people want to dismiss Yahusha. It's almost like, okay, you were born, you sacrificed, you resurrected. Now sit over there. I'm just going to talk to Yah. Disregarding that they are indeed one. Disregarding that Yahusha is the word to us. The word of Yahuah before us. That makes the connection for life everlasting. On that note, I say to you, O Yashar'al, the great divide will prove to be real and will be worthy of the word great. You think social distancing is bad? Watch, O Yashar'al. As people come out of their house, many will run back to their houses, apartments, tents, cars, space. They will run back for shelter, and some it will be too late. And some will recognize the discipline of the Almighty Father. Do not reject the discipline of the Almighty Father, as it is written in Hebrews 12th chapter. For out of that discipline, O Yashar'al, we will rise up strong. We will discover unity and all set apartness. I say to you, my brother, my sister, if these words reach you, they reach you for a reason. Make no mistake, the Almighty Father knows how to get his word to whom he see fit. On that note, I conclude by saying to you, gird up, my brothers and sisters, and behold the hand of the Almighty Father in Yahusha's name. Shalom.